Alright, a two or four-legged thief ran off with a trail camera of mine, so I'm going to try to come up with a lockbox for the ones I have left. I started out, I put paper over top of my camera and traced out, where the flash is, where the lens is, where the movement sensors are, and all that, and then kind of free-handed, drawing around that. So that way you come up with, what type of opening that you're going to need so that your camera works properly. Your LCD screen and all that will be covered up, so it can't get damaged, and all that along the way. I took that along with some measurements and transferred it over to a piece of sheet metal. It's kind of hard to explain. We'll make a couple clips along the way, but basically, here's the front. That'll be the window for your camera, top, bottom, sides. The locking mechanism that I'm going to make for it will actually be a hasp that passes through underneath the front. But like I said, this is just the layout of the pieces. I won't go into dimensions or anything because it'll all depend on what size camera you're using. But we're going to use a plasma cutter, cut all these out, and then whenever I start putting pieces together, it'll be a lot more easy to explain then. Alright, we got all the pieces cut out. I got to thinking, I never did mention that, a jigsaw with a metal blade would have been good enough to cut these out. The only reason I used a plasma cutter was my granddad's got one, so it does, a pretty good job. The only thing I could think of would be hard with a jigsaw would be if you make the bent cuts around the opening of yours. This is the camera enclosure so far. The dimensions of yours will depend on how big the camera is that you plan on putting in it. Basically it's just a box that your camera fits in with a hole in the front. I did want to point out that the sides of this do go down on mine 3/4 of an inch below what the bottom of the box goes. And that'll be for a locking system. It'll be easier to explain to you how that works whenever we get to that point, but just wanted to go and show a little halfway progress on it. Alright, here's the camera enclosure. It's pretty close to being done. The compartment that I'd been talking about with the sides coming down below the box, you can kind of see what I'm talking about now. I made it, had two pieces of metal for the back, and it has an opening. So here's the fixed steel that I'm going to use for the backer plate. So this will go onto it with a hinge welded at the top, and it'll hinge down, and there'll be a rod with a hole in it coming through this, and then that way the lock will go down into that, and your lock will be somewhat protected from somebody coming by and just kicking it off, as well as taking your camera. Alright, we got the backer plate welded onto the box with just a regular weld-on hinge. Wasn't sure if anybody knew what I was talking about, but they actually sell weld-on hinges, with no holes or anything, specifically just for welding, but that's what I used. And then, we're getting pretty close to having it done. The hinges up and down, like I said. I'll be putting I think what I'm going to use is just a piece of rebar that I had ground down flat on two sides, and I'll put it in there with a hole in it, and then it'll come through the hole, and that'll be able to be lockable. I'm gonna take the Dremel and maybe clean up these edges a little bit more, and then it'll be about done. I'll also have to drill a couple holes through the plate metal here, and then that'll be what I actually lag bolt through into the tree, and that's what's really going to secure this to the tree and make it almost impossible to get loose. Alright, we got the box squared away and ready to go. Threw a little bit of green paint on it, camouflage it a little bit. Holes for the lag bolts are in it. Hasp is welded on, holes drilled in it. It's ready to go. The lock, like I said before, goes down in, over, and you know it's locked and ready to go. If you make one, the bottom plate, you know, will have to be slightly smaller than the bottom of the box. That way, the you know, the lock will be able to swing around and be locked. And then you don't want it too short, because this one actually protects the hasp of the lock from bolt cutters. It'd be really hard to get in there and prowl on it, or to kick it or anything like that. But that's how it turned out. Looks pretty good. Quick shot of the camera in the box. You can see that all the parts of the camera that needs to be exposed are, and the parts that aren't are protected. Maybe we'll throw her on a tree and see how it looks in the field. Alright, here's the camera on a tree. It wasn't quite open enough to get the camera out, so I put a 2x4 behind it just so that the lid would swivel out more and the camera would pop out easier. But other than that, it turned out pretty good.